All right, here we go with the first objective of our next unit, Unit B, which talks about percents, word problems, and expressions. We begin with Objective 10, which first starts off with verbal expressions. So I want to talk about what each of these verbal expressions are and how we can translate them into mathematical expressions. So looking at this first one, we have addition. The symbol for addition is, of course, plus. And ways that we would see this in a verbal expression would be sum, plus, or more than. So if we see something is more than another, then we're thinking addition. For subtraction, the symbol is, of course, minus, that symbol here. Ways that we might see that in a verbal expression are difference. So if we're talking about the difference between two quantities, minus, of course, minus, less than and fewer than. So if one quantity is less than another quantity or fewer than, then we're thinking subtraction. A quick note on these two, so you can group these two. Anytime you see less than or fewer than, that means that we should switch the order that it's written in. So switch the order. And you'll see what I mean by that once we see a few examples. For multiplication, there's a few different symbols that we might see. We might see this X, this times symbol. We might see it as a dot. And you might also see it as parentheses. Right? So any of those three symbols, we mean multiplication. So ways that we might see this in a verbal expression, the product. So remember, anytime you see product, we're thinking multiplication. Of course, times. So a number times another. And then also if we see something like twice, triple, quadruple, and so on. So as a reminder, twice means that it's two times, so times two. Triple means it's three times, so times three. Quadruple, you may have guessed, is four times, or times four. And we can keep going on and on and on. But anytime you see any of these, we're thinking multiplication. Lastly, division. Again, there's a few symbols that we use. So we can use this, a dot, a line, and a dot. Of course, we see that as division. We might also use like a backslash or a slash that indicates division. And also we might see division as a fraction. So A over B, where A and B can be any number. So that would be division. Of course, B can't be zero. And in a verbal expression, we might see this as a quotient. So the quotient you can think of as the answer to a division problem. That's the result of division is a quotient. You might also see it as divided by. And that one's pretty straightforward, and a quantity divided by another quantity. And then also when we think division, we're thinking how many times does something go into? So goes into another quantity. And so anytime you see that, you can think division. So let's try a few examples. This first one, we have 5 more than some number x. So here I see that we have more than. So that tells me addition. So I'm seeing 5 plus some number x. Well, that's some number, that's our variable x. So we have 5 plus x. And now we have an algebraic expression. Letter B, 10 fewer than some number h. I see fewer than. So when I see fewer than, I'm thinking subtraction. Now, a quick note, anytime you see less than or fewer than, we switch the order. So this is not to say we have 10 minus h. So this is not to say that 10 minus h. We're switching the order. This is saying 10 fewer than h. So we're taking h and we're going 10 fewer than that. So really what we're looking at here is h minus 10. So that's what we mean by switching the order anytime you see less than or fewer than. So be careful anytime you see that. Next up, we have letter C, the sum of 2 and 5 times a. So I see a couple operations here. I see sum and I see times. So this is the sum. So I know we have addition, and I see times. So I see we have multiplication. I'm going to use a symbol dot for that. So we've got 5 times a. So we can write that as 5a. You can also write 5 in the dot a, so 5 times a. And we want the sum of that and 2. So we're going to add 2 to that. So 2 plus 5a. Next up, we have the quotient of some number, g, and 3. So I see quotient, I'm thinking divide. So we want the quotient of g and 3. So g divided by 3. And you can write that as a fraction as well. You can say g over 3, or g divided by 3. Letter E, c divided by the sum of 2 and some number p. So C, I see I divided, and I see sum. Okay, so we're taking the sum of 2 and some number p, so 2 plus p, and then we're dividing that into c. So c divided by this quantity here. Now, why did I put it in parentheses? Well, notice that this is c divided by the sum of 2 and p, not c divided by 2 or c divided by p. It's the sum of 2 and p. So we have to take the sum of 2 and p first, or add them first, and then we divide. So another way to write this, we could say as a fraction, c over the quantity 2 plus p. So the whole thing needs to be in the denominator. Note that this is not the same thing as c divided by 2 plus p, right? What this is saying is c divided by 2, and the sum of that is with p. Okay, so be careful with the notation here. We're dividing the sum, so the whole sum has to be divided. Next up, we have twice x less than 10. So twice, I see that, and I'm thinking multiplication. So we have twice x less than 10. So less than, I'm thinking subtraction. Now, less than is one of those ones that we switch. So we want to do 10 minus 2x. We switch the order there. All right, let's try a few more. Flip the page. All right, this next one, 5 less than 8. I see less than, so I'm thinking subtraction. And that's when we switch it. So now we have 8 minus 5. The sum of 8 and a number q. So sum tells me addition of 8 and a number q. So 8 plus q. The product of 9 and the sum of a number a and 12. So we're saying the product of 9 and a sum. So what is that sum? That sum is a and 12. So we got a and 12. So this whole thing is a sum, and we want the product of 9 and that sum. So we want to multiply by 9. So notice this is the product of 9 and the sum, not 9 and a or 9 and 12. So we take the sum first. That's why we need the parentheses. The quotient of a number r and the difference of 9 and a number s. So I see quotient and I see difference. So the quotient of a number r, so r divided by a difference. So we're dividing out a difference. So we've got a quantity here of 9 and a number s. So 9 minus s. We could also rewrite this as a fraction. So r over 9 minus s. The sum of quadruple m and a number h. So I see sum, I see quadruple. So I see addition and multiplication. Quadruple m is 4 times m, or 4m. The sum of that and h means we add h. A number v less than the product of 3 and a number w. So I know we're switching it, but let's take a look at this first. The product of 3 and a number w. So we have 3 and a number W. The product means multiplication. And then we're flipping the order. So a number V less than. So we're going to take oops, that is the wrong way. So we're taking V less than the product. So we take the product first, and then we subtract V. There we go. All right, so this is objective 10, verbal expressions. We'll get some practice on this, and we'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.